So, as a pollster, we like to spend a lot of time in the crosstabs. And while Joe Biden is maintaining a 7 point lead post convention, when we get into the crosstabs, it tells a different story. We start to see the very different coalition that Joe Biden and Donald Trump are putting together. And for Donald Trump, his winning coalition involves him getting about 5 or 6% more votes from men of color, or for Joe Biden to get about 5 or 6 less votes from men of color. And I think we've seen both strategies on display. Over the past couple of weeks, even, we have seen Joe Biden's lead amongst Black voters drop from a 65-point lead to a 54-point lead. And this is mainly because Donald Trump has doubled his margins with the young Black voters, with the young voters under the age of 35. This has been an ongoing effort from the Trump and Republican campaigns, and we're beginning to see the efficacy of this effort. We're beginning to see young Black voters, specifically young Black men, actually gravitating towards Trump, not in large numbers, not the majority by a long shot, but in small enough margins that can really determine the outcome of this race in places like Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Florida that will determine the outcome. But, on the issues, I think this is important because the number one issue that we have seen for Black voters in general, but for young Black voters in particular, is racism. I mean, overwhelmingly. And unfortunately, many conventional polls don't even include racism as an issue. And so what we're really doing is measuring the priority of these voters and how they prioritize whatever issues we think are important. But when you include racism in that battery, overwhelmingly for young Black voters, it is their number one issue, even more important than COVID-19, which we just don't see anywhere. That's such a great point. I think we underrepresent just how much xenophobia is affecting the AAPI community. We have seen the highest growth of anxiety around racial issues amongst the AAPI community. And I do think that Joe Biden and Democrats have a unique story to tell about race relations in this country. I think they have an opportunity to present an alternative vision of America. Donald Trump is very clearly defining this election amongst racial terms and doing so in the most incendiary ways. And that provides an opportunity for Democrats. But the only way that they can do that is to lean into race. As long as Donald Trump has, declared a culture war here and is running an election in a culture war environment in which he is quite literally attempting to declare war on American cities over the issue of race, then Democrats really do have an opportunity. But as long as their response to racism and xenophobia is more affordable healthcare and better jobs, as long as Democrats' response to a culture war is an economic response, then they are missing the issue that is most important to these voters. And the place that we see that most expressed is in this question we asked, 86% of Black men believe that it is very important for the next president to improve race relations, but only 21% of those Black men believe that Joe Biden will improve race relations. That is a drastic gap there, and this is on intensity, very important, and very confident that he will do so. So I do think that Democrats and Joe Biden have a lot of work to do here to paint the alternative picture of race relations in this country. I completely agree. And I don't want to lay all of this at the feet of Biden to say that it is all his fault, the challenges that he is having among some of these key groups. The truth is Black men have been underperforming with Democrats since Barack Obama exited the political stage. We have seen we've seen Black men's support for Democrats drop just in 2016 by 20 points in Texas, by 15 points in Ohio. This is amongst Black men who actually voted. Their support for Democrats dropped by 15 points in Ohio, by 29 points in Nevada. I mean, these states are no longer competitive with a drop-off like this amongst what is supposed to be the most loyal Democratic voter. And so when I was in focus groups just last night with Black men, specifically focus grouping Black men that were considering Donald Trump, or have previously voted for Donald Trump, they said something very poignant about this, which was because if racism is their number one issue, then how is Donald Trump's racism not disqualifying? You know, it was a question that was burning in me. If it is so important to you, then how is someone that's so blatantly racist not disqualifying to you? And one young Black man in Georgia said to me, I don't care that he's racist. All of the presidents have been racist. At least this one tells me where he stands, and I can trust the man that tells me where he stands. And so racism is not going to be enough to disqualify him if we can't make his racism mean something to their lives. How has his racism impacted them personally? And I think that's the story that Democrats have to tell. I completely agree with you, you know, that leaning into a message of racism has to start with an acknowledgement of fault and of wrong. I don't agree that those Black men are not convertible. I still think that they are our voter because we are on the right side of all of their issues. I do think that when he says that all presidents are racist, he's talking about a system, right? He's not talking about individual men. He's talking about a system of racism. And I think you're absolutely right. I think leaning into that conversation involves Joe Biden acknowledging the systemic racism that is built into our system and acknowledging how his past and his record has contributed to that and how he has learned from that. And that is what makes him the best candidate to be their president, because of the lessons that he has learned and because of his willingness to begin correcting them. I think it's a conversation that we can win, but it's a conversation that we have to have.